Social Security Act of 1935, an act to provide for the general welfare by establishing a system of federal old age benefits and by enabling the several states to make more adequate provision for aged persons, blind persons, dependent and crippled children, maternal and child welfare, public health, and the administration of their unemployment compensation laws, to establish a Social Security Board, to raise revenue, and for other purposes. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Title I. Grants to States for Old Age Assistance. Appropriation. Section 1. For the purpose of enabling each state to furnish financial assistance, as far as practicable under the conditions in such state, to age-needy individuals, there is hereby authorized to be appropriated for the fiscal year ended June 30, 1936, the sum of $49,750,000, and there is hereby authorized to be appropriated for each fiscal year thereafter a sum sufficient to carry out the purposes of this title. The sums made available under this section shall be used for making payments to states which have submitted and had approved by the Social Security Board established by Title VII, hereinafter referred to as the Board, State Plans for Old Age Assistance, State Old Age Assistance Plans, Section 2. A state plan for old age assistance must 1. Provide that it shall be in effect in all political subdivisions of the state, and, if administered by them, be mandatory upon them. 2. Provide for financial participation by the state. 3. Either provide for the establishment or designation of a single state agency to administer the plan, or provide for the establishment or designation of a single state agency to supervise the administration of the plan. 4. Provide for granting to any individual whose claim for old age assistance is denied an opportunity for a fair hearing before such state agency. 5. Provide such methods of administration, other than those relating to selection, tenure of office, and compensation of personnel, as are found by the Board to be necessary for the efficient operation of the plan. 6. Provide that the state agency will make such reports, in such form, and containing such information, as the Board may from time to time require, and comply with such provisions, as the Board may from time to time find necessary to assure the correctness and verification of such reports, and 7. Provide that, if the state, or any of its political subdivisions collects from the estate of any recipient of old age assistance any amount with respect to old age assistance furnished him under the plan, 1/2 of the net amount so collected shall be promptly paid to the United States. Any payment so made shall be deposited in the Treasury to the credit of the appropriation for the purposes of this title. B. The Board shall approve any plan which fulfills the conditions specified in subsection A, except that it shall not approve any plan which imposes, as a condition of eligibility for old age assistance, under the plan, 1. An age requirement of more than 65 years, except that the plan may impose, effective until January 1, 1940, an age requirement of as much as 70 years, or 2. Any residence requirement which excludes any resident of the state who has resided therein 5 years during the 9 years immediately preceding the application for old age assistance, and has resided therein continuously for 1 year immediately preceding the application, or 3. Any citizenship requirement which excludes any citizen of the United States. Payment to states, Section 3. A. From the sums appropriated therefor, the Secretary of the Treasury shall pay to each state which has an approved plan for old age assistance, for each quarter, beginning with the quarter commencing July 1, 1935, 1. An amount which shall be used exclusively as old age assistance, equal to 1/2 of the total of the sums expended during such quarter as old age assistance, under the state plan with respect to each individual who at the time of such expenditure is 65 years of age or older, and is not an inmate of a public institution, not counting so much of such expenditure with respect to any individual for any month as exceeds $30, and 2. 5% of such amount, which shall be used for paying the costs of administering the state plan, or for old age assistance, or both, and for no other purpose, provided that the state plan, in order to be approved by the Board, need not provide for financial participation before July 1, 1937, by the state, in the case of any state which the Board, upon application by the state, and after reasonable notice and opportunity for hearing to the state, finds is prevented by its constitution from providing such financial participation, B. The method of computing and paying such amounts shall be as follows. 1. The board shall, prior to the beginning of each quarter, estimate the amount to be paid to the state for such quarter, under the provisions of Clause 1 of subsection A. Such estimate to be based on a report filed by the state containing its estimate of the total sum to be expended in such quarter in accordance with the provisions of such clause, and stating the amount appropriated or made available by the state and its political subdivisions for such expenditures in such quarter, and if such amount is less than one-half of the total sum of such estimated expenditures, the source or sources from which the difference is expected to be derived. B. Records showing the number of aged individuals in the state, and c. Such other investigation as the board may find necessary. 2. The board shall then certify to the Secretary of the Treasury the amount so estimated by the board, reduced or increased, as the case may be, by any sum by which it finds that its estimate for any prior quarter was greater or less than the amount which should have been paid to the state under Clause 1 of subsection A for such quarter, except to the extent that such sum has been applied to make the amount certified for any prior quarter greater or less than the amount estimated by the board for such prior quarter. 3. The Secretary of the Treasury shall thereupon, through the Division of Disbursement of the Treasury Department, and prior to audit or settlement by the General Accounting Office, pay to the state, at the time or times fixed by the board, the amount so certified, increased by 5%. Operation of State Plans, Section 4. In the case of any state plan for old age assistance which has been approved by the board, if the board, after reasonable notice and opportunity for hearing to the state agency administering or supervising the administration of such plan, finds 1. That the plan has been so changed as to impose any age, residence, or citizenship requirement prohibited by Section 2(b), or that in the administration of the plan any such prohibited requirement is imposed with the knowledge of such state agency in a substantial number of cases, or 2. That in the administration of the plan there is a failure to comply substantially with any provision required by Section 2(a) to be included in the plan, the board shall notify such state agency that further payments will not be made to the state until the board is satisfied that such prohibited requirement is no longer so imposed and that there is no longer any such failure to comply. Until it is so satisfied, it shall make no further certification to the Secretary of the Treasury with respect to such state administration. Section 5. There is hereby authorized to be appropriated for the fiscal year ending June 30, 1936, the sum of $250,000 for all necessary expenses of the board in administering the provisions of this title. Definition. Section 6. When used in this title, the term old age assistance means money payments to aged individuals. Title 2. Federal Old Age Benefits Old Age Reserve Account. Section 201. A. There is hereby created an account in the Treasury of the United States to be known as the Old Age Reserve Account, hereinafter in this title called the account. There is hereby authorized to be appropriated to the account for each fiscal year, beginning with the fiscal year ending June 30, 1937, an amount sufficient as an annual premium to provide for the payments required under this title, such amount to be determined on a reserve basis in accordance with accepted actuarial principles and based upon such tables of mortality as the Secretary of the Treasury shall from time to time adopt, and upon an interest rate of 3% per annum compounded annually. The Secretary of the Treasury shall submit annually to the Bureau of the Budget an estimate of the appropriations to be made to the account. B. It shall be the duty of the Secretary of the Treasury to invest such portion of the amounts credited to the account as is not, in his judgment, required to meet current withdrawals. Such investment may be made only in interest-bearing obligations of the United States or in obligations guaranteed as to both principal and interest by the United States. For such purpose, such obligations may be acquired 1. On original issue at par, or 2. By purchase of outstanding obligations at the market price. The purposes for which obligations of the United States may be issued under the Second Liberty Bond Act, as amended, are hereby extended to authorize the issuance at par of special obligations exclusively to the account. Such special obligations shall bear interest at the rate of 3% per annum. Obligations other than such special obligations may be acquired for the account only on such terms as to provide an investment yield of not less than 3% per annum. C. Any obligations acquired by the account, except special obligations issued exclusively to the account, may be sold at the market price, and such special obligations may be redeemed at par, plus accrued interest. D. The interest on, and the proceeds from the sale or redemption of, any obligations held in the account shall be credited to, and form a part of the account. E. All amounts credited to the account shall be available for making payments required under this title. F. The Secretary of the Treasury shall include in his annual report the actuarial status of the account,